Well, hello everyone. My name is Zachary O'Shea, and this is Box of Teeth. I have a couple of horror-themed minions for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition that are part of the same cult for all of you right now. Here in May, we're covering a specific antagonist and his minions that you can use for a horror-themed Dungeons & Dragons game. That antagonist is the Groom. He's basically a riff off of Frankenstein's monster, but he's not the first one of them that was made. That's actually the Relic, who is female and sought to have a life partner that she made all on her own, thus the Groom. However, that didn't work out very well, and now these two forces of evil are just clashing head to head, with everyone else being kind of caught in the middle of it. The Groom wants nothing more than to destroy the Relic and give oblivion to everyone else, including himself, and this desire extends to his minions. And this certainly extends to the two monsters we're going to cover today, the lower-ranking members of the Nepenthe cult. There are certain personalities that are gathered to the beautiful and terrible abomination that is the Groom. These are the dispossessed, the lost, the lonely, the suicidal, and once they find themselves in the construct's orbit, their personalities shift and warp due to the dead shard of divinity that is within the Groom's chest. Their already fragile grasp on reality melts away, and they become obsessed with garnering the Groom's acceptance and love. The problem is this living golem is capable of neither. However, the Groom does recognize they are a tool that he can use, and he will keep them near him for a time. Usually he dispatches them to disrupt the order of a region so he can take over, or against those powers that be that show their subjects love and respect, because the Groom hates that. And of course they're always there when he needs to throw fodder against his most hated foe and creator, the Relic. The fate of these cults is always the same, however. Eventually the Groom grows tired of having these petty mortals around fawning over him, and he puts them all to the blade, and they go to it willingly, and then he walks off on his path alone once more. The typical Nepenthe cultists wear their insanity as a badge of pride. Their eyes are wild and unfocused and kind of gleaming with intoxication. They're unkempt, they're unruly. All they really want to do is spread chaos and gather the Groom's love. Their lips are stained black, as well as their chins, by the sacred plant that they drink and harvest from corpses in the cold, cold muck that they live in. Their clothing and armor is ragged and ill-fitting. Their weapons are ill-kept, but they're still dangerous because they're fueled by these delusions seeking destruction and entropy. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at a typical neonate and acolyte for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. The neonate is a challenge rating 1 medium humanoid who is chaotic evil. They wear leather armor, they've got an okay number of hit points, they are resistant to poisoned and immune to the poisoned condition because they're always drinking from the Nepenthe plant itself. They're also immune to frighten because they don't really care if they live or die. They do have the thoughtless ability, so they have advantage on saving throws against enchantment spells and charm effects. They usually use a mace and a crossbow, though really they can use any kind of simple weapons if you want to equip them differently. And they have a reaction of weak entropic strike, which is more or less a very, very watered down smite that does a tiny bit of cold and a tiny bit of psychic damage. Let's take a step up to the Acolyte, who's also a medium humanoid and chaotic evil. They do wear scale mail armor and have a decent number of hit points. They are resistant to poison, the poison condition, and the frightened condition, but they're also resistant to cold damage because they've spent more time around the Groom himself. They also have learned deep speech from the Groom. They also have thoughtless, so again they have advantage on saving throws against enchantment and charm effects. They have Wisp of Oblivion, where they become an ethereal silhouette of who they used to be and appear someone else. It's basically the Misty Step spell. And everybody around them, when they appear, has to make a wisdom saving throw or be stunned until the end of their next turn. They have multi-attack using a longsword and a crossbow. They also have a full entropic strike, which is closer to a paladin smite, but still not quite doing cold and psychic damage. The Nepenthe cult is a twisted version of the Lotus Eaters from the Odyssey, kind of sprinkled in with that driving, chaotic, destructive entropy through cycle that you often have in Dungeons and Dragons. And we're going to expand on the next two members of that cult very soon as well. But it's nice to have a variety of creatures that are very similar in their abilities, because it creates a cohesive identity of the antagonists that your heroes are often going to start with. I'd love to hear how you use these sort of cultists in your own game down in the comments below. If you're interested in them, the Groom and the rest of his minions, along with hundreds of other horror-themed monsters, all for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, they're all perfectly free. You can always go to boxofteeth.blogspot.com. If you're more interested in the non-Dungeons & Dragons role-playing projects that I have, or the horror fiction that I write that includes Grease Paint right here, it's got a killer clown. Book 2 is going to be out sometime later this summer, so stay tuned. You can always go to www.zacharyoshay.com. Thank you for your time and your attention, and have a wonderful rest of the day.